So, welcome to another video. This is supposed to be the Marauder video, like the final part where I finished building it. The parts haven't turned up yet. I'm still waiting for a couple of parts. There's a bit I've done, so I can maybe do a bit of a video this week, but like the parts. Okay then, I may be getting a little bit carried away with these intros. Please comment below if you think I should stop, or if you think I should keep doing it. Let me know as well. But let's build this bike. Yes, I am still checking for spiders. So as always, I reached for the muck off to clean the bike. I just used it with some wet water. Sometimes if it's not too bad, I just use the muck off and just wipe it down, but it was really grimy, this bike. So yeah, I give it a good old scrub down. The fork had quite a big build-up of grease, so I used this chain degreaser from Mock-Off. It's really good stuff, really cheap as well, and it lasts ages. But yeah, it really works for the grime on this fork. Another Mock-Off product. I'm not sponsored by them, by the way. I just really like their stuff. But this is the Miracle Shine. I use this on the whole frame. This is just me using it on the fork. You basically just rub it down on the fork, kind of like a normal car polish, until the haze kind of goes away. I should probably say at this point I've had a cold, so my nose is a little bit blocked up. So if I sound more nasally than usual, I really apologise. I'll try and keep the voiceover to a minimum. I build a lot of my bikes late at night, so sometimes I really struggle to get parts in or remove things or whatever it might be. In this case, I couldn't get the headset in to save my life. I tried several times and then ended up just giving up and doing it in the morning. cabling up the brakes and the gears, there was something that just didn't hit right with this bike whilst I was building it. I think the biggest thing for me was the weight of it. It wasn't any lighter than when I started, and that's kind of obvious. Like, I was trying to restore this bike and spend as little as I could, but it didn't feel like one of my builds. There was something that wasn't quite right, and I think the biggest thing with it was the fact that I was trying to make it original, and that's just not my style. But the big thing that kept rattling around my head was the weight, so I decided to weigh it. I mean, this was obviously a reasonably stupid thing to do, because of course it weighed loads. Like, loads. But there's a few things that I had an idea of that I wanted to change to try and make it lighter. One was the tyres. These cheap tyres were pretty bulky and quite heavy, but more importantly, Mark over at Monkey Shreds actually had a pair of the same brand at least, and he blew them up after 200 miles, so I didn't feel very comfortable about putting these on one of my builds anymore. Next obvious is obviously the crank itself. These things are massive and heavy. Because it's an American BB, I had to get an adapter. The adapter took quite a bit of time to actually arrive, but when it finally did arrive, it turned out it didn't actually fit this kind of shell. This did my head in. I tried for ages to try and get it in, and this is as far as I get it, and I couldn't quite work out what it was, so I put it on my Instagram. Turns out it's this little ledge that's stopping it. One of my followers, Lee, he watches these videos as well, and he actually has the exact same issue with the exact same bike, different model but same sort of BB, and he machined the edges of the adapter, which is way above and beyond something I'm capable of doing, but I've put a little picture here. It's really, really impressive, and his actually works perfectly now. This is when I kind of hit a brick wall, and I had to kind of accept that I needed a bit of time away from the bike. I think this is an important lesson that I finally learned, is the fact that if you just pummel these things break, you get into trouble, and it doesn't quite work out the way you wanted to do. So essentially I took a couple of days away from the bike and came back with a fresh mind, a fresh head, and fresh parts. But before I get to the fresh parts, let's look at some old parts. I had to do something about this crank. As you can see from this, it weighs quite a bit, and it was one of the big things that I needed to change, but I really couldn't. I tried to find some lighter one-piece cranks, but I decided to do a bit of dismantling. And I was pretty happy with the results. It came out nice and shiny and looked kind of like it was meant to be. The weight difference was minimal, but it made a difference, and that was the key thing for me. So I put it all back together, and it looked good. I also decided to go single speed. I had this 14 tooth freewheel knocking about. I'm probably going to go down a size just because it's a little bit hard, but it's okay, for now at least. Oh, and I also got some Billy Bonkers because, well, you're supposed to, right? So I weighed it again, so it went from 14.2 to 12.18, which isn't too bad, really. And that was that. I just needed to finish the build and put the last few touches on. As usual, I forgot to finish the recording. It was late at night, but I did all the brakes. Nice little purple caps on the end. I also added this rack. This is like £12 on Amazon. It's pretty basic, goes onto the brakes. It's perfect for this build. The grips I changed to these purple ones I had, just because I felt like they worked better. They're still Vans, the waffle ones, but purple. The saddle is the original saddle. I kept it because it doesn't look that bad and it's super comfy. And I think that was it. last thing to do was the basket. The basket I picked up from the home section in H&M. I think it was like £8, so it wasn't too expensive. It was a really nice size. The only problem was these little bits on the handles, so I just used some pliers and just pulled them straight off, basically. And then, using the obvious zip ties, I attached the basket straight to the rack. The zip ties I used were pretty hefty, so they were on there pretty tight, and it was rock solid. I was pretty pleased. Last thing I needed to do was take it for a nice Sunday cruise through the city. If I'm really honest, I'm super happy with this build. It came out better than I thought it was going to. I honestly built this bike for someone else, in the sense of probably going to sell it. I wasn't really doing everything for me, and I ended up still falling in love with it. So who knows if I'm going to sell it at this rate. It's super comfortable to ride, and I've been using it loads to commute to work. But yeah, that's that. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed what you liked, or what you watched, or if subscribe, please subscribe, and follow me on Instagram. Yeah, cheers. That sound like Nick Frost.